In this episode of Pending and Trending, I sit down with Gettys Glaze, a powerhouse real estate leader from Charleston, to talk about building wealth, creating impact, and navigating the real estate industry with purpose. We cover everything from overcoming challenges to growing a brand that lasts, and how real estate can be a tool for community empowerment and generational wealth. If you're ready to level up your business and mindset, you don't want to miss this. Welcome to Pending and Trending. I am your host, Deidre Quinn, and this podcast is all about helping real estate agents stay ahead in today's fast-moving market. With over 20 years of experience and a passion for building relationships, I bring you the latest tips, trends, and strategies to elevate you and your business. Whether you're looking to dominate a niche, stay sharp on industry shifts, or build your own generational wealth, you are in the right place. Let's get to it, because what's trending today can get you pending tomorrow. So I've been in the business for over 20 years, and I am the host of Pending and Trending. I share insider tips, market trends, strategies to empower real estate agents to create their lasting wealth and build thriving businesses. And I just want to take a minute to introduce our guest here, Gettys M Glaze, a well-known real estate professional and team leader in the Charleston, South Carolina area, the founder of the Sandlapper Group. And I understand you've built a reputation for delivering exceptional results in residential and luxury sales, and that you bring a unique combination of leadership, negotiation, and a local expertise to every transaction that you do.
That's correct.
All right. So what made you transition, and how long has it been since you were an individual agent and a team versus a team leader? Like, when did you make that transition, and what made you make that transition?
I was an individual agent for the first maybe 3 years of my career, and I've always played team sports, so I like having that type of environment around business also. So then I started my own team back in 2004, and then started my own company in 2004, grew that to about 90 agents. So really, it was only on my own for 2 or 3 years without an assistant, just doing things, learning the ropes for the most part. The first 2 or 3 years I was in my career. And since then, really, it's been a team atmosphere type setup. I had 90 agents with my company, got out of that, went back into sales back in 2009. And it's really been more of a smaller group team atmosphere since then. My assistant's been with me for 16 years. She's great.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, she's actually on a cruise right now and works from the cruise. So we have a team right now of 6 agents, which is good. I always thought about my real estate team to be almost like a professional sports team. I really wanted highly trained, really good people that did good business. So that's the transition, the flow of how things went in my career.
Yeah, and without your assistant this week, that has to be tough, right? So I know.
No, I talked to her this morning. She was going on an excursion off the boat, and we had a conversation about a contract we're working on. So she actually works from the boat.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. No, I know when my assistant's not, when she's off for a week, it's always a challenging week.
I have 2. I have my main assistant. I call him client care specialist. So she's been with me 16 years, and my other assistant's been with us for 10 years. So they back each other up when we have to write contracts. And so,
Good.
So yes, they work well together.
That's excellent. That's excellent. So what are some of the key decisions, and perhaps having 2 assistants ties into that as well? What are some of the key decisions that you've made that helped your team grow and scale to the point that you are now?
I think the biggest decisions, I instituted a closing coordinator early in my career and instituted it with the company I had also. I had basically an in-house closing coordinator. That was a huge step, I thought, for my business and my career, because I got out of doing like the day-to-day task of closing real estate, and I was out producing and meeting people and doing income producing activity rather than handling home inspections and repair addendums and lining up appraisals and all that kind of fun stuff that most agents do. And they get sidetracked on their income producing activity because they're doing all the other daily activity that really doesn't produce more real estate. So that's one of the biggest things that I've learned over the last maybe 20 years, is that you can't do everything. You can't play every position on the field. You have to do what you're best at and you have to get other people in to help you if you're going to grow it and scale it.
So your assistants being obviously two of those hires, are there any other hires that have been to your success that you've added to your team?
Not necessarily, because they do, one of them handles closing coordination and one of them handles listing coordination. And she also does some after the sale marketing, that type of thing. So if we were to bring in somebody else, it'd probably be a marketing person, just because all that's changed so much over the last 5 or 10 years. I'm 54, so I brought my son on to work with me last January. He's 29, so he's way more adept at the video and the Instagram and all that fun stuff that we really have to do. And I don't know that game much anymore. So I kind of let him handle it, and he's done a good job with it so far.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, everything is video driven and now AI. So now we have AI to add into that as well.
Yes.
So yeah, that's great. So what do you strategies do you use? Like you mentioned, and you have some longevity obviously on your team too. And you mentioned well-trained and agents and what strategies do you use to keep them motivated and focused on delivering those exceptional results?
I think the main thing is I look for the right kind of people on the team that are really self-starters, that
Mhm.
don't need a lot of training, that already been trained by somebody else maybe, or have had a decent career already, that need some support. They don't necessarily need me to go out there and help them generate leads because they already have their own established business. So we pretty much set it up almost like a commercial firm where we share that admin support, but everybody pretty much runs their own business within that team framework. I know
Okay.
it's a little bit odd for a residential team because a lot of people will have a listing person and a salesperson or a showing agent. We handle our own business within that, and we'll help each other if we need some backup or showing help, that kind of thing. But so those are the main things. So it's pretty much that they run their own business within the framework of the team.
Okay. And how do you find those people? What's been your success in finding the strong people?
My business partner for the last 20 years, my dad and he did business together, and he was in the car business. So he came to me and he's 20 years older than me, and he runs circles around me. But he came to me and was like, listen, I don't want to go and work for anybody else besides you. I know how you work. I know your dad, and because I know your reputation. So I pretty much trained him. He was working off an AOL account and was always in the office. I'm like, Mike, I said, you need to learn how to work out of your car and be remote as much as you can. So that was my first pretty much hire. Wasn't really a hire, was more of a merger with us. And then the other folks that have come in, they all either own their own business at one time or have worked for somebody else. Like one of my top producing agents, she worked for another agent in the market, was going to go out on her own and start her own business. And we were like, you may not want to do that. There's a lot of risk involved. Why don't you come and see what we do? And she's flourished. She understands exactly what she needs to do, kind of what I was talking about earlier about income producing activities, and
Mhm.
she lets the admin support do all the other work. So that's been great. Now I get people constantly coming to me and want me to bring them onto the team and train them, but that's not really my skill set. I've learned that over time. I'm not a great trainer. So,
We all have to know our strengths, right?
yeah,
And our opportunities.
I have the scars to show it. I had not, like I said, I had 90 agents at one time, and I was the old guy. I was like 37 or 38 years old, and I was like, if I could just duplicate myself through these younger agents, I can train them to be like me. That was a mistake. I learned that lesson early, so I don't really go back and say more agents is better. It's just we need really top producing agents that know how to do business. They don't create liability. That's a huge thing. And do business the right way. So it's all a reflection on each other at the end of the day. So you really want people out there that are good stand-up people doing business correctly.
That's right. That's right. I agree 100%. Now, I understand that you have a substantial luxury presence. And I often have agents come to me saying, I'd like to break into the luxury market. Did your luxury presence happen organically? Like, how can you, and what's your advice to agents that want to break into that market?
I think it really, for me, it happened organically over the years because I always took the idea and the mantra that I was in the client business, not necessarily in the real estate business. And whatever my clients needed help with, that's where I could fill that need for them. So obviously, as a younger person in the business, I really wasn't doing luxury deals. I was doing a lot of first time home buyer stuff and maybe second home type work. And then over time, as my clients got older with me, that business has transformed into higher price properties. And the price of property in Charleston has gone through the roof over the last 25 years. So
Right.
you got two different things to think about. You got your clientele getting older that has more money, and also the price of property is getting higher. So it just happens naturally.
Happens naturally. That's right. And I love what you said. You're not in the real estate business, you're in the client business, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I love that. What are some of the differences like that you or services, different services that you provide when you're working with high net worth clients as opposed to a first time home buyer? Is there difference in your services?
There's not really a difference in the services, but I'll tell you the expectation is a little different because the higher net worth folks, they tend to understand a little bit more about the process and what a real professional will bring to the table for them. A first-time home buyer is they just don't know any different. That would be the main thing. So they have a lot more questions. They don't understand the process as much. So we have to go back through and answer those questions repeatedly on the same topics for the most part. But I tell, I tell my son now, I'm like, listen, you don't get caught up in the zeros of a transaction. You do the process the same way, regardless if it's a $300,000 house or a $3 million house. So you guys got to follow the process, and that's what the contract's there for. Kind of give us a roadmap to get the things closed.
There you go. There you go. And how would you say that you've been in the business a long time and we have different markets and markets change and shifts and how do you navigate that market for yourself and how do you help your team navigate those market shifts?
The market, obviously, you've been in it a long time, like I have. You've really got to stay ahead of where the market is going, and I think that's the biggest, one of the biggest things that an experienced agent has over a new agent, because we've been through some of the cycles of things going down, interest rates going up, inventory going down. And you can manage that a little bit better because you've seen it happen before. So from getting like, as the market's changed over the last 8 or 10 months because interest rates went up, it's just the natural economy of what's going on. We have to adapt and really stay ahead of that and not just go off what the news is telling us, but really dig deep to really what the economic factors are that are controlling why inventory is going up. And there's a lot of people in our town that have interest rates of 2.5%, 3%. They have a ton of equity in their houses, but they don't want to move because their interest rates so low. So those are the types of conversations that we have all the time. And I just think as you do more volume, that just becomes a lot easier to have that communication with your clients.
Sure. So what kind of things are you doing right now to, if anything, differently to navigate the changes in the market?
We recognized when COVID hit, our inventory went down to really about a fifth of what it normally is. And me personally, I started putting together some investment deals on building houses to create inventory. So that's been a nice change for me personally to stay busy when the market was limited. And we've gone to doing 3 or 4 houses a year, and now we're doing 15 to 20 a year. And I have that process in place, which helps me individually. For the other, like some of my other team members, one of the team members, he's really heavily involved in the rental side of the business. And so he generates business off of that type of activity. And then the other young lady I was talking about, she was a really heavy buyer's agent. Now, a lot of those buyers that she had are moving into listings and she'll list and sell their properties. With the experience and just the longevity of our team, it we get a ton of referrals. We don't really work a bunch of new leads. So it's that's not really where we want to focus our attention is the stuff coming in over the internet.
Okay, great. So with those referrals, do you do anything to nurture those referrals? Do you do anything to keep in touch with your clients? Do you have a plan in place to do anything like that?
Oh yeah, I would say that's probably one of my strengths. It's just staying in touch with my clients over the years. I really try to touch them between 8 and 12 times a year. That's my focus. At least once a month, maybe not all the time once a month, but at least try to do that once a month. Remember, I'm a huge advocate. Remember birthdays, anniversary, kids' birthdays, deaths of family members. Always reach out like on those days. Just tell them I'm thinking about them. Those small little touches over the year seems to help. It seems to help. And making that connection, I would say that's a huge part of what we do is making that connection with people and just staying in touch with them. Like I played golf with one of my best clients. He and his wife were new first time home buyers. They've sent me at least 10 referrals over the last 5 years. And they're a young couple. They're in their mid 30s, got a couple kids now. So went out and played golf with him. We had a good time. But those just little things like that, just staying very organized on follow up is critical. Not only new business, but past business.
Sure, that's great. And then, so how do you do that? Do you call them? Do you text them? Do you email them? Is there,
All of the above.
oh,
I had this conversation with my son, like I was telling you, he's 29. So I broke it down. Folks that are my age, they'll take text and phone calls and emails. People that are older than me, they'll like phone calls only. Younger than me is going to be text message, maybe some phone calls. They really don't do a lot of phone calls. And then his age, all it is text messaging. So,
yeah,
so you got to really figure out who your audience is going to be and
that's right.
tailor your message to them. And it's not just one type of message. It's got to like Facebook Messenger to Instagram post to text messaging or email. It's not one thing you have to really stay on top of. It's all of it.
That's so true. And depending on who you're talking to, it's, oh, can I call you? Or you just call or whatever, how,
That's right.
yeah, no, I agree. What are some key factors you focus on to stay competitive in your market where there's so many agents, right? And how do you stay competitive? How do you stay on the top of your game?
That's we have about 9,000 agents in our market right now, and we only have 4,500 active listings.
Okay.
So there's a lot of part-time agents,
Yeah.
a lot
Real
of
time,
part-time
right?
agents.
Yeah.
And I've always said those part-time agents are taking revenue really out of the market that the full-time agents could use or have or generate. That's just the way it is in our market because it is a kind of a lot of people do it as second jobs. They have a full-time job and they might do 4 or 5 transactions a year. But to stay competitive, it's just really being just a little bit more organized, a little bit more, I wouldn't say experienced, that's not the right word, but a little bit better. That's probably the easiest word to say is that you don't have to be a rocket scientist. You just have to make sure that you're staying on top of the market, like we talked about a little bit ago, and then being a little bit better on your follow up, being more systematic, being more disciplined when it comes to that type of activity. I think that's really where agents lack. We were having a conversation with a client of ours today. We have a conflict on a closing date, and he even said to us today, he was like, "You guys are so good at communication. It is way different than other agents that I've interacted with." And I think that is just huge. That says volumes about how we communicate.
That's great. That's great because they really feel that you're in communication. They feel like they know what's going on, right?
There's part of, we all have lives and you want to be accessible to, for the most part, but you also have to have boundaries when it comes to having a family and friends and your downtime. And so we can't work 24/7. I think a lot of agents get caught up in that type of activity where they feel like they have to respond at all hours of the day and night. So having a little bit of structure within your day definitely helps to stay on top of that and creating that boundary with folks that you are a professional. You're not just out there replying back to text messages at 10 o'clock at night. I don't do that because I go to bed at 9. But it's and that's but I'm up at 5. So if I get text
Right.
messages at 10 o'clock, I might respond at 6 a.m. to say, hey,
Right.
this is what we're going to do. If you're going to do it me at 10, if you're going to send it to me at 10, I'm going to send it to you at 6.
Yeah.
They quit doing that pretty quickly.
So have you set boundaries over your career in real estate that you just shut your phone off, or that you answer your phone from a certain hour to a certain hour, or does it just happen in ebb and flow?
I've tried to do that. I really tried to be strict on that. But in the mid part of my career, I had younger teenage kids. So I really couldn't turn my phone off at night. That's hard. But from the client standpoint, it does go into do not disturb at 8 o'clock. So I have my favorites set up. If my kids call me now, they're adults,
Right.
or my mom calls me or somebody, it will ring. But the other calls might go to voicemail or text messages I don't hear. So I will check it, but I may not respond. So I do with the new technology, you can schedule messages to go out the next day, which is great, or emails or text messages, that kind of thing, which helps control that boundary a little better.
The new technology, right? Imagine thinking back. I remember standing by a fax machine in the middle of an office, waiting for an offer at 10 o'clock at night, saying, I'm still missing page 5. Can you please resend page 5? Like, right now, look
That's
at
right.
technologies, like it's helped us in many ways, but in other ways, it's
Yeah, when I first started, we were still using dial-up MLS.
ah,
Yeah, look
yeah.
how far we've come with the drop boxes and the DocuSigns, and I can do business from anywhere. But I've adapted that. And that was my mentality over time is I didn't want to be stuck behind a desk. I wanted to be able to be on the go and to be able to do business anywhere. So I've always constantly worked on becoming more efficient with my time, and technologies for sure help that.
For sure, for sure. So can you tell me what some of the challenges that you faced over your time and how you overcame them?
I would say the biggest challenge that I faced was probably when like close family members and friends didn't use me for their real estate needs. That was probably the biggest gut punch that I had in my career because I'm such a loyal person and I expect that loyalty out of my family, especially, but my friends, my close friends. And when they didn't do business with me, I've gotten over that mentality now just because I've been doing it long enough and I'm not surprised anymore. But I would say that was probably the biggest hurdle to get through mentally
Yeah.
because when I started my career, I was 29. I had two small children. My son was my son was 4 and my daughter was 2. And my wife was a stay-at-home mom, didn't have a second income. So there was a lot of pressure to produce. And when I had family members not do business with me in the first couple of years, I'm like, it was just like I said, it was just a gut punch. And that's the hardest thing. And that's one of the things that I've tried to explain to my son is that and he was like, Dad, why do you get so bent out of shape about that? I said, you will understand when it happens that it just hurts.
Yeah. Yeah. So how did you handle that? Like, did you approach it head on? Did you bury it? Well, how did you handle it?
Not at the beginning of my career. I didn't. I probably just internalized it and
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
got a little bitter about it. But in the later years of my career now, I've had some of those conversations. But some people have the mentality they don't want to do business with close friends. I get that. That's fine. Just tell me, just have a conversation with me. Say, hey, I'm going to hire this person over here. Nothing against you. Hey, great. Thanks for the phone call. Appreciate you letting me know. But it never gets easier. It's just, you just learn to go with it a little bit better. And you've got people out there that aren't even your friends and family that are more loyal to you than your friends and family.
Yeah.
And that's what I've learned that over time too. Is like the young couple that sent me 10 referrals. They didn't need to send me 10 referrals, but they are loyal to me and I always remember their kids' birthdays and their anniversary. And so it never gets easier.
And then I know that you started when you were around 29, and now I think you said your son is 29, and your son started with you not all that long ago, right? Now, how is that working? Is that did he always want to do real estate with you, or was that something that
Yeah, he got a job. He graduated in 2018 out of college and got a job that he was working at, kind of like a traveling sales job. So he was on the road a little bit, and then COVID hit. So he was the last guy in, first guy out kind of thing.
okay?
And so he went ahead, and that affected him a little bit from a mental standpoint for a little while. So he went ahead and got his license. I was like, dude, why you don't have a job really? Why don't you go ahead and get your license? That way you have it, and you can start working with me a little bit during COVID, which he did. And then he took another job outside of our town for a couple of years, which was the best thing for him. And
Mhm.
then he called me up one day and said, I think it's time for me to come back and help you and free up your time a little bit and learn the business. He's seen what I've done. There's really no succession plan in real estate if you think about it. And that's the best one that I could institute would be him and or my daughter coming in and taking over the business because it's been a good business and it's taken care of my family for 25 years.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. That's great. And is he enjoying the business?
I it's he jokes about it sometimes. He's like, Dad, I don't even realize how you've done this for 25 years. He goes, some of these people we deal with are just hard to deal with. I'm like, yeah, they are. And that's just one of the things that you're going to have with any type of career is that you're going to deal with people that, you may not see eye to eye with all the time. And especially in real estate, we're competitors with other agents, but we also need their help with our listings or them bringing buyers to our listings. And then you've got to be somewhat amenable to doing business together, even though we're in competition with each other. That's one of the biggest things I would say as an experienced agent that agents figure out as you're in the business longer is that we all need each other. It's not necessarily as such a people always describe our business as cutthroat. I don't see it that way because competition's healthy, but we also need to work together because we're trying to help the public, really.
That's right. That's right. And as far as the clients go, they're going through one of the most emotional times in their lives in some cases when they're selling a house or whether they're upsizing or downsizing or whatever that is. It can be a really challenging time. So we do sometimes see people at their best and sometimes not so much.
Oh, yeah, and it's not necessarily our clients, but it's also the other agents that give
Yeah.
you, because they don't have any boundaries. Like we were talking about just a minute ago, they'll make phone calls and they'll text you at 9 o'clock at night wanting to have a phone call about something. We can do that in the morning. But
Yeah.
so that's one of the bigger things is just learning how to adapt with the competition and the cooperation more than anything else.
That's right. Because we need each other.
You gotta have each other.
So, if there's one thing that you could say to our listeners that would help them build lasting wealth or a thriving business or both, what would that one thing be?
I used the term when I first started, Deidre. I was trying to create clients for life. That was my lead in to my business. And so if you take that mentality to your business, you're not going to create every client for life. That's almost impossible because they'll meet somebody else they like better or they make a decision. But if you can take that into your business every day and the people that you're working with, that you're going to be with them for the rest of their lives, that's and everything that you do around that, from follow up to whatever you do when you see them, that's probably the biggest thing that I could teach somebody is that if you can have that mentality, that you'll be very successful.
Love it.
It's not about the money because you're going to make money if you create clients for life.
That's right. That's right. Love that. Love that. What's the best way to reach out to you? How can our listeners find you? And
We just launched our new website today. Thanks to my son, he spearheaded that thing. We've been using a different software system, so we just actually just became active this morning before I got on the call with you. The sandlappergroup.com is the website. My stuff is I'm on Instagram and Facebook, and my name is pretty easy to recognize. It's hard, not many people have my name. So if you Google just Gettys Glaze, you'll be able to locate me and see my background of sports and golf and that kind of stuff. So
that's great. That's great.
I'm easy to find.
And I was looking at your website today earlier and it looked great. So they did a good job.
Yeah, I think so. The back end system is really the CRM, and the follow-up system is really more critical to the business for us. But the front end is obviously great for the public, but there's so many places people can search these days. But the back end is really being, like we talked about earlier, being organized with that and just staying on top of those tasks and follow-ups and having it in one place where people can take notes and see things that's easy. Makes it easier.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. It was looking really, really good.
That's cool. And thanks again for having me on. I appreciate
Yeah,
you.
thank you so much. You were a great guest. I enjoyed the conversation and we'll keep in touch.
You got it, Deidre. Have a great
Okay, take care.
Take
You
care.
too.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
That's a wrap on this episode of Pending and Trending, where hot meets what's happening in real estate. If you found today's conversation helpful, we'd love for you to hit follow or subscribe, leave a quick review, and share the episode with fellow agent or industry pro. Got a trend, tip, or hot take we should be talking about? Send it our way, and we might feature it in an upcoming episode. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, stay sharp, keep your transactions in motion, and let your energy keep trending.